Hey, y'all. Welcome to season 2 of the Reckless Optimist podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a show about hope, strength, perseverance, and resilience. Let's get into it. Today on the podcast, we have David. I met David through the online sober community. He is a content creator. He is a writer. He shares these amazing memes and quotes, and I am constantly sharing them to my page. And I messaged him to see if he would come on the show, and he agreed. He is someone that has a really amazing, transformative story. He struggled with addiction in his younger years, was able to eventually get sober, break through that, and is now a second-year med student. And he just has a really beautiful story. I know you guys are going to love this story and be inspired by it. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Help me welcome David to the podcast.
Hi, I'm David.
I have to tell everyone how I found you. So I actually have been resharing your memes, your quotes, your content for a long time. And I clicked on your page and I was like, wow, we have a lot in common. He's an ultra runner. He's sober. He's in medicine. I wonder if he would ever come on my show. And I sent you a message, never thinking you would actually see it. And you responded, and now here we are.
Yeah, I try to respond to all my DMs. So it's funny because I feel like every sober podcaster that I do a podcast with, also runs ultra marathons. You got to be the third person that has a sober podcast and they run ultra marathons on the side.
There's definitely a correlation there. And I've heard you actually talk about it before.
Yeah.
You have to kind of go back to that pain in your life to remember, and to keep yourself going.
Yeah, it's important to me.
And the feeling of overcoming, the sense of endurance athletes, it's you're overcoming, and so is sobriety.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm a big believer in that, and I talk about that all the time, and that's 100% why I do it. And I just did one last month, and it was all about just going back to that turmoil and just feeling all the things I needed to feel again. Always very powerful. Every time I do it, it's never about the physical act of running. It's not about that. It's about a spiritual journey. It's way more emotional than it is physical. And people I talk to and things that I put out there online, there's a lot of people that agree with that and feel that way. And even just going to the start line of an ultra marathon and talking to somebody, you have the most interesting conversations because, nobody in their right mind is going to go just pay $350 to run 100 miles. You know what I mean? So you show up to these races and these people just have been through some shit, and it's just really cool.
Yeah. I've met some of the coolest people in my life at 100-mile races, endurance events.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the misfit toys, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so excited to get into your story. Before we do, we're going to read a quote. And the quote for your episode is by you. So the quote goes, "You don't need to work harder. You need to go sober for a year while everyone else numbs. Then you'll know who you are. Then you'll know why you're here." What does that quote mean to you?
Yeah, I think people massively underestimate the value that sobriety can bring to their life. I think there's a predisposition to focus on addition in the world right now. I think people look to add the diet, add the workout, add the coach, add this, that. But, I think a lot of my friends that I really look up to and people I really look up to that I really want to be like are the people that are subtracting. So they're taking things out of their life and it's allowing more good to come into their life as opposed to trying to do the instantly gratifying thing of adding. So I think sobriety is one of those things where it's like a removal. So you remove alcohol, you remove drugs, and it's a delayed gratification process, which is why a lot of people don't feel gravitated toward doing it. And, in that quote too, I think I put the word suffer. And that was a big part of my sobriety journey was suffering, and it sucked at the time when I had to get sober and go through that first year, that first 2 year of just absolute turmoil, emotional pain, spiritual pain. But it taught me so much about myself. And like we were talking about with the ultras, that it had such a massive impact on my personality and it just molded me into this person that I'm so grateful for it. And I'm grateful to the point where I continue to try to go back to it, to keep learning and to keep diving deeper. So yeah, I think that quote emphasizes the power of sobriety and how it can kind of touch on literally everything in your life. It's not just about not drinking. It doesn't have anything to do with not drinking. It's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger than just staying sober till midnight, staying sober on the weekends. you get to a point where like you're not even thinking about that. You like you probably know, like you're not even thinking about not drinking. It's so much bigger than that. It's expanded out so much. So I think that the message I was trying to like get through in that post.
Yeah, absolutely. There was so many of your quotes that I wanted to use for this episode, but this one really resonated with me. When I hear this quote, I kind of break it down into two parts. One is that when I was in active addiction, I tried everything to fix myself except removing the alcohol. I did 75 hard. I tried fasting. I tried every different spiritual book. I tried every self-help book. Never did I think, oh, maybe try removing the alcohol. Yeah, just being in denial. But you're right. Yeah, I love what you said about reducing, like reduce the noise, turn the volume down, turn the caffeine down, take the alcohol out. That's the first part. The second part of the quote that I just absolutely loved is then you'll know who you are. Then you'll know why you're here.
Yeah.
Because that's how I would describe my sobriety. I think when you are constantly putting a substance in your body that alters the version of you, you can't do those two things.
Yeah, 100%. I think that that's because you're not in reality, right? Like you're escaping. So it's so hard to like understand who you are if by the time Friday comes, you're no longer in reality. And then that carries over into Monday and Tuesday because alcohol, it stays in your system. Then you're just thinking about the next weekend and you're in the future and you're fascinating about what you're going to do this upcoming weekend. And it's just all about that. Like my life was all about that. I was never just like in the moment. I was never just present. I was never just actually with myself. I was afraid of myself. I hated being with myself. Now I love being with myself because I've gone through like that first 2 years. I went through that pain and that misery. And, I've, did the work and I've uncovered the things that I was really struggling with that were bringing me a lot of anxiety and depression and all this stuff. Right. And my favorite part about sobriety is being able to really fall in love with who I am and understand who I am. And, that is the biggest takeaway of the process for me. So yeah, those last two lines were, I mean, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of this is to understand, why you are here and to understand like who you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. So well said. Well, I am very excited to hear your story. So wherever you feel comfortable, just take us back.
Yeah, so I started drinking in high school. I think I was like 15 or 16 and I grew up in New Jersey and I remember drinking the first time. I mean, I loved it. I wanted to do it after that, like pretty much right away. That was like my new favorite thing to do. And kind of just, wrote it out and kept doing it. And, everybody around me was doing it. So it wasn't really like an abnormal thing. And eventually like got introduced to drugs like marijuana, cocaine, started doing that. And that was like my new favorite thing now was cocaine. I loved it, made me feel like Superman and just continued to do that. Went to college. Originally, I was a nursing student in Philly, and went there, and just went there for the sole reason of basically partying, and didn't pan out well. I just remember being in like a lot of like emotional pain all the time, and the only thing I looked forward to was the weekends, and I wasn't pushing myself. I had like a path kind of, but it just wasn't really like what I just never really like loved it. I was basically just there because everybody was supposed to go to college and I thought that that's just what I was supposed to do, but I actually just wanted to drink. So eventually just got to the point where I was just partying so much at college and I just had to take a medical leave basically from school and my grades were like flunking. And so I took a leave and basically just decided that I was just going to get high for the rest of my life because that's just like the only thing that kind of made me feel good. And I wasn't really interested in doing anything else. So I went back home to my parents' house, and that's what I did. And you can imagine that it spiraled out of control like real quick. And I'd get kicked out of my house. I was in and out of psychiatric wards, just up for like 5, 6 days straight, saying crazy things like in psychosis and going to psych wards, like hitting the reset button and then coming back out, promising everybody I'm going to stay sober, promising everybody I'm not going to get high. I'm going to do what I need to do. And then I'd get high again. And then I'd steal money again. And then I'd get kicked out again. And then I was homeless again. And then I was back in a detox or a psych ward. And then they tried to send me up north to Connecticut, get me out of the state, you know what I mean? Get me away from the hometown. And yeah, I just always come back and like just get high again. And I eventually went to a psych ward, and this time it was like my fifth or sixth psych ward. And I had like a decision. Like I could get dropped off basically at the Atlantic City homeless shelter, or I could get on a plane and go down to Florida. And at this point, it was like February, so it was freezing. But it was still like a really tough decision. I almost went to that homeless shelter, but I ended up getting on the plane and I went down to Florida. And at this point, it was like my second or third time down in Florida. Went to a rehab that I was like just at down there. I was just there 30 days ago. So I saw a lot of the same clients. And yeah, I don't think they were too surprised to see that I was back. And yeah, I don't know. I found like this group of kids down there that were my age. At this point, I was like 19, 20 years old. So I was pretty young. And they were just like excited about sobriety. They were really into the idea of like what their life would look like if they stayed sober for a long period of time. They were like thinking like a decade, 2 decades out as somebody who was like 20 years old, right? So what would my life look like if I just stayed sober and let this thing iterate? By the time I was like 30, by the time I was like 40, that's like 20, 30 years of sobriety. You're not even 50 yet. You know what I mean? So like what would my life look like if I let this thing just do its thing and I just stayed in it? And, that excitement kind of wore off on me. And it was enough to make me open minded enough to stay down there and to go to meetings and to get a sponsor and do all the stuff that you're supposed to do in early recovery. And so I stayed there for a while and I got an opportunity to go out to California to do a year-long intense sober living out there. And I took it and I went just because I wanted to go to California, and the guys there like seemed cool, and I was talking to them on the phone. So I went out there and I did this like intense year-long behavioral modification sober living, and honestly, it was exactly what I needed. It sucked. It sucked big time because it was like a big accountability thing. Like your roommates held you accountable. You had to make your bed every morning. You had to be up at a certain time every morning. You had chores. You had to sign out when you left the house. You had a curfew. You had to go to a certain amount of meetings. You had to get a job. You had to pay your own rent. And it was exactly what I needed because, a lot of this for me was like just growing up too. I just didn't know how to be an adult. And yeah, I went out there and I did a year there. And then I kind of decided like, I want to try to go back to school. And so I graduated this place out west and I went back to the same university I was getting loaded at. They let me back in their nursing programs. So somehow they had a seat and I was able to go back. And so I went back to this university where I was previously this person who was just high all the time. And now I'm this sober person, like a year and some change sober, sitting in class. And I actually didn't know anybody sober on the East Coast at this time. My whole entire sober community was out west, right? So I'm like a year and some change sober and I'm coming back home. And because of the accountability system out west, people are asking me questions about, oh, you're going to go back to a college campus. Like that sounds like that's a little bit of a red flag, right? So they were like, you should probably move into a sober living by your school. Because my, colleges, like they don't offer any, maybe they do now, but they don't offer any like sober dorms or anything like that. So, the last thing I wanted to do was to move back in. I don't know if you've ever lived in a sober living. The last thing I wanted to do was move into a sober living at like a year and a half sober because they're not fun. You have to get piss tested. You have a curfew. Like some of them are like intense. And it just so happened that the only sober living in the vicinity of my university was another structured hardcore sober living. So I actually moved into this, like I'm a year and a half sober. I move into this sober living house or right outside the campus and I'm a year and a half sober and I'm coming into their place and they're like taking my phone. I'm on blackout, so I can't leave the house without a elder member of the house, who has like 6 months sober, and I have like over a year sober. And I'm like, guys, like I'm about to be in school, like I need my cell phone. They're like, the rules of the house, got to go through it. So, I'm going to nursing school and I don't have a cell phone. So and I need somebody to walk me basically to class because I can't leave. I'm going to get kicked out of the sober living if I don't follow their rules. Right. So I'm sitting in class with these nursing students and like, I'm trying to make friends. So if I have questions about my homework or something, you know what I mean? So I'm like writing their numbers down on paper so I can go call them from like the house phone from like 1920 at the sober house. And it's funny now, but I did not want to do that. And it humbled me so hard because even at the time, like I was saying it, I was like, this is BS. I shouldn't have to do this. I'm fine. Like I'm okay. But this is the thing that a lot of people miss. Like, and I had sober coach, right? So this is a lot, what I see, right? That's the mindset you need to have with sobriety. If you're the real deal, if you're the real deal person where this was fucking up your life, that's the mindset you need to have. It needs to be sobriety number one at all times. Doesn't matter the circumstance. It didn't matter that I was paying 50 grand in tuition to go back to nursing school, and the house rules were like messing up my GPA. Like at the time, I didn't agree with it at the time, but looking back, me staying sober was more important than my GPA. Me staying sober was more important than me looking like an idiot with like a notepad writing down people's numbers in class. It just was. And, I still try to keep that mindset today, like even like 6.5 years later, because this needs to stay number one. I've seen it. I've seen what happens. You go to meetings and you see like, it's pretty common. You see the guy with 15 years, like, I drank. You see the guy with 20 years, I drank. There is no days off. This is not something that like you just get and then you're good. That's not what this is. This is talks in the book about this. It's a daily reprieve. It's a constant ladder that you need to keep walking up, right? So basically, I go back to school. I'm in this sober living. I'm like calling people from the house phone, you know what I mean? Like looking like an idiot. And it was exactly what I needed. And honestly, it amped my sobriety times 5. Like my sobriety shot through the roof, right? And don't get me wrong, I did not agree with it, but I stayed there because I knew as long as I was there, my sobriety wasn't at jeopardy. I knew that they were going to make me go to meetings and I was going to have to meet people that were sober, and I was going to build a community of sober people. And that's exactly what happened. And so I got a community of sober people. And instead of hanging out with the frat bros, which I probably would have done, right? Maybe I would have stayed sober. I don't know. Maybe I would have been a frat bro that was sober. I don't know if they exist. Maybe I would have been it, right? But instead of doing that, I was hanging out with, the guy that had 10 years. And he's telling me bro, if I could go back to school at sober, dude, it would have been game over. I would have killed it. So I'm hearing the guy that's 45, 10 years sober talking to me about that. And I'm like, holy shit. I have this gift right now. I have this gift. This guy's telling me this. I can do that. I can go do that. And I've never been that guy. I've never been the smart guy. I've never been my SAT score, 800, 16th percentile SAT score. I've never been that guy. Right. And I'm talking to people and they're just, bro, just go crush it. And so that's what I did. I went from the person at the university that was getting high, not showing up to class, teachers failing me, to now I'm sitting in the front of class in the microbiology, organic chemistry classroom. And it's Monday morning and I'm just fired up. I can't get enough of it. I love it. I'm learning and I'm doing the best on the exams, and I'm living in this massive contrast is the best way I can describe it, because I went from this person that was the total opposite of this new person. And I'm just having so much fun with this contrast of my life switching like that. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, I might be able to get into medical school. And I remember I eventually moved out of that sober living when I got what I needed and I had a community. I moved out and I moved in with some buddies from school. And I was just sitting there one night. It was 4 a.m. There was people at our house. Everybody was drinking. I was sober. And, I went through this phase a little bit where I would still go out to the party, and I would be the guy who was able to be at the party, but drink Red Bull and water. And I went through that for a while. And there was this one night in particular, and it was 4 a.m. and I'm sitting there on our couch and I'm just thinking, and I'm just like, this is bullshit. What am I doing? I'm almost 2 years sober. I'm drinking fucking water. There's a bunch of drunk people in our house. It's 4 a.m. It's Sunday, right? I'm not going to be hungover tomorrow, but I'm technically going to be hungover because I'm not treating my body right. I'm not getting the amount of sleep that I need to get. I'm still going to sleep just as late as everybody else is sleeping. What am I doing? Is this what I got sober for? I didn't get sober for this. I didn't get sober to live the same exact life I was living, just minus the alcohol and drugs. What the fuck? And I don't even feel good. I'm removing the only thing that I liked, but I'm still in the same exact environment. I did not get sober for that. So that night I decided, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done. Straight up. I said that. I was like, I'm done. I am done doing this. And I dropped out of nursing school. And I went pre-med, and, people at the school were saying you have to take 21 credit semesters, all this stuff. I call my family the last time I dropped out of nursing school, right, I was in like a psych ward the next day. So families got like PTSD, like understandably, right? And I'm not even like 2 years sober. So I'm still technically like a liability. And, I'm on the phone with them and I'm like, no, guys, like, don't worry. Like, I'm good. This is just what I want to do. And I just went all in. And I just like sat in these classes and I just loved it. And I loved learning. And I met with teachers outside of class. I did research with teachers outside of class. I just loved every bit of it. And another thing I did at college too, which I didn't really talk about yet, but I joined the cross country team and that's kind of where my introduction to running happened. And my thought process there was, and again, this is keeping sobriety number one, right? This is the mindset, is the cross country kids are probably not going to be like the football kids or the frat kids that are drinking every weekend, right? And my sobriety was so important to me at that time that I needed to find the people that I could be around that were going to be solid dudes. Like I needed solid dudes. And I needed it outside of 12 step too, because I needed it at school. And cross country was one of those things where I was like, I just have a good feeling about this. I don't think these guys are going to be like Kappa Sig or whatever. They're going to be cool. They're going to be good dudes. So I had that experience at school too, where I was an athlete and I met like amazing people. Coach was amazing. I was vulnerable about my situation with the team. It was really powerful stuff, really good community, good like culture of guys there. And basically, ended up graduating and took my MCAT and got into med school. And now I'm at med school second year and got into ultramarathon running too once I graduated from undergrad and started the Instagram page and just kind of like been putting out my message because honestly, a lot of sobriety is just like massively, I don't see anybody like online that's like really like owning the sobriety thing and like pushing that like solitarily. Like I see people online that are pushing the fitness and the diet and the sobriety. I don't see anybody that's like, bro, sobriety's just always been that one thing for me. It's just like, it's the cream of the crop self-help thing. It's the cream of the crop. It's the best bang for your buck. It encapsulates everything just within that one decision is encapsulated in that. And that's been my experience. And if it's my experience, I'm sure it has to be other people's experience. So that's kind of what prompted me to, start posting stuff and getting more vulnerable online. And that's been a whole experience, like, as you probably know, because it takes like a lot to like get vulnerable and there's a lot of noise. And this is kind of hard stuff to talk about, but I'm really grateful that I've been able to do it because I think that it's helped a lot of people. And I wish that I had somebody when I was 20 years old. People are telling me I got to stay sober for the rest of my life. When at 20 years old, the only thing that brought me happiness and joy and fulfillment was being able to drink and get high. So I wish that I had somebody to look to on Instagram or whatever that I could see, oh, like this guy did this and he's here now and like that's pretty cool and maybe I could do that, But yeah, that's kind of like the 30,000 feet overview.
Oh my gosh, your story is absolutely fascinating. And it's so funny because we do have so much in common. I also ran cross country in college. I'm also 6.5 years sober,
Yeah.
also an ultra runner. Just so many parallels. It's funny how the world can connect you to people. I have some follow-up questions for you. I have
Yeah.
tons of questions for you. My first one is before we popped on the interview, we were talking about the stigma that there is with being an openly sober person in the medical world. And I experienced this myself. So I got sober in 2019 and then went to grad school like a month later. And I was openly sober about 6 months after I got sober. And that was fine. But when I started to graduate from NP school and apply for jobs, I hid all of my sobriety stuff because I knew it would be a really hard time trying to get hired if someone came to look at that. Now I'm very proud and out and an advocate for sobriety. But did you experience any of that as well?
Yeah, it's so funny because we have an identical story in that way too. It was the same way as you. So I tried to be open about it and upfront about it. When I was medical school application is a lot of essays and it basically is like, why do you want to be a doctor? Well, I want to be a doctor because of my experience in 12 step and my experience with sobriety and helping other people get sober and like just everything about it. And I think it makes a lot of sense why somebody would want to go into medicine after experience. Like I've been through the medical system so many times, as a patient. So I think it makes a lot of sense. So anyway, I wrote about all my sobriety experience and I ran it by the pre-med advisor or whatever at my school. And she knew me, but she didn't know like any of my story. So I like give her this paper because she needs to review it or whatever. And she's reading it, her like jaw is like is like dropping on the floor. And so I thought that she was gonna like it, but then she like looked up, she's like, you can't, I don't think that you should say this. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like that's why I want to be a doctor. I don't have anything else to talk about. And she was like, I think that they're going to see this as a red flag, and I think it could potentially hold you back. And that was very upsetting to hear. And, my first thought was like, I'm going to say it. But then I went home and I thought about it and I was like, you know what, she might be right. And so I had to rewrite my whole entire application and I didn't talk about it at all. I didn't say that I was sober. I mean, I had experiences that were like sober things. I'd fundraised for recovery and stuff like that, but you couldn't really tell that I was sober when I rewrote my application. And basically, I just rewrote it I just talked more about running and like different things that I had to talk about. And I ended up getting in with that. So, would I have gotten in if I talked about being sober? I don't know, like maybe, but I ran it by a couple people and they all said the same thing. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't talk about it. And now that I'm in medical school, though, I'm kind of just like, well, they can't kick me out. And honestly, like, I don't know, like, I'm just done kind of like, I did it once. I was like, all right, yeah, I won't say it. But now I'm just like, I'm just kind of done. I'm not going to hide behind this experience that's changed my life. I'm not going to try to like push it down and keep it under the rock. I'm just not about that. I have this desire to share with people what I've been through. I have this desire to show people what's possible if you can get sober. I'm in medical school now. I'm done putting the fire extinguisher on all of my life experiences. Like that quote said, that's not why I went through that first 2 years of misery. To not talk about it ever again. So now I'm very open about it and it's like grown on social media. Now I just think like I think it's a flex now. Like I think it's a flex. I think people like even in residency like are looking for people that have a big presence so they can promote like whatever it is, right? Like even if it's outside of medicine, it's like if you say like, yeah, like I do this thing and I have like this following and like whatever, I think people are like that would promote my business or that would promote our community or that would promote our residency program. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of just rolling with that mindset now on it. And again, I could be wrong. I'm not really sure, but there's no way I'm keeping this inside anymore. Like this just needs to come out. And yeah.
Yeah. No, this is a conversation that needs to be had, especially with medical providers. I went to a medical conference a few years ago. I was probably about 4 years sober. And this doctor was amazing, cardiologist, giving all of this great stuff about eating plant-based and all of this awesome advice. And then at the end, he was like, and you can drink and drinking is great for you. And I was like, no. No, 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 no. There is literally no medical benefit to alcohol, and doctors that continue that narrative that it is good for you is extremely problematic.
That is so I was sitting in lecture about like, it was probably close to a year ago today, a medical school lecture. I'm in a medical school in the United States getting lectured by a physician and they're talking about, we were learning the liver and the hepatic system. And I kid you not, on the slide, it says it is safe to consume 2 drinks a day for a man and 1 drink a day for a woman. So if you do the math out, that's 14 drinks a week for one man. Like that's crazy. There's no way that is safe. That's what's being taught to future physicians. And I actually emailed the person after. I looked up like the WHO guidelines. And because I know this, because I watch a lot of podcasts and I know that the recent literature says there's no safe amount of consumption under any circumstance. It's been proven that there is no safe amount of alcohol ingestion. Risk begins at the very first drop. So I emailed this person and, they're great. I mean, and I didn't like attack them or anything, but I was just like, hey, like, I'm just interested, like why, you said this. But yeah, like, I just don't think people know. I just think it's so normalized. I think it's always been this way. And, it's just so normal and nobody even thinks twice about it.
Yeah, there's definitely, some internal bias, right? Some generational bias if they're a drinker or whatever, and maybe they don't have a problem. But in terms of like strict nutritional value, no, it's carcinogenic. Like there's no 0% that's good for you. While we're on the topic of medical school, I have another question about that. Just because I'm genuinely curious, because I know in my NP program, they did not talk a lot about addiction and recovery. Do you guys get any education on how to handle someone in addiction?
Yeah, we do. We do. I think a lot of it is like pharmaceutical based, which I have like mixed feelings on. But I think the reason that it is that way is because a lot of the first 2 years of medical school is just preparing you for board exams, and board exams just they test you on medication. So I think that we get more experience with it, like actually being on the ward and actually seeing it in real time. But no, we got a lecture on it, like substance abuse, addiction, stuff like that. We learned about it. We actually, the medical school I'm at, we have a big addiction program here and like neuroscience program here. A lot of people doing research on addiction. We actually have a big clinical trial here right now that I'm involved in, and they're using like GLP-1s to reduce cravings. I don't know if you've heard about that. That's
Yeah, yeah, super
yeah,
interesting. I think it has to do with like the dopamine reward system. You don't get as
yeah,
big of a dopamine hit from
yeah.
it. Super interesting. Well, I have some questions about your sobriety. I wanted to ask you, that first year, a lot of people will fall off the wagon. You kind of had a very unique case, and I respect you so much because you were a young person in sobriety. I was, 34, I think, when I got sober. I can't imagine trying to get sober when I was your age in college. I mean, I was like the girl dancing on the bar. Like, there's just no way it would have happened for me. But you did it, and it's super impressive. So that first year, like what tools, what habits, what do you think kept you sober?
I think, like I just said about the mindset, I think keeping it number one, I think having a solid foundation of people around me at all times that had my best interests in mind, that weren't afraid to hold me accountable, weren't afraid to pull my covers, weren't afraid to hurt my feelings. They'd rather step on my toes than step on my gravestone 5 years from now. And I'm sure you've known people. I know people. I get a call like every year, I get a couple calls like, oh, so and so passed away, took a pill or, started shooting up again. And it's just like, I lived with them for a year and he's just like, they're not here, like not even 30 yet, So having a, network of people that are like seriously about this and seriously like pushing you to continue to grow. Cause we were talking about daily reprieve, right? Like this isn't just you get sober and that's it. This is like you get sober and you got to keep going. It's literally like an ultra marathon. Like you got to keep going. So I have guys on the phone that I talk to that are like, dude, like who are you helping? How many 12-step meetings you going to? Are you praying? I'm really a firm believer that I need to keep doing because I see that they're doing it and their life is panning out for them and they're older than me and they have more time than me and I want to be like them. And that gets hard sometimes because you can go, especially when you go back to college and you're around all these people and you want to be in the cool group. It's not really cool anymore to me. It's not really cool to be the guy that's up till 4 a.m. that's like sleeping with 100 girls. I'm surprised people still think that's cool. I don't think people are going to think that's cool like 20, 25 years from now. I think there's going to be a big twist on like, what's considered cool. I think it's way cooler to be jacked and to be, fit enough to run 50 miles whenever you want and, to not have to put some sort of carcinogen in your body to make yourself feel good enough to go talk to somebody. Like I think that's whack. I think it's funny because like, if you gave people the option to like, if you gave people the option of you could feel just as good without putting any alcohol in your body, or you could drink something that doesn't taste good and like feel that same way. They would 100% take the option of, oh, well, if I could just feel that way without drinking alcohol and feel that way without waking up hungover the next morning, I'll do that. If I don't have to drink, I don't want to, like, just make me feel that way. Right. People would 100% pick that. But the funny thing is like, that's an option. That's an option. But it requires going through that first 1 to 2 years of suffering to get there. Because I can go out to a bar now and I can still have a good time. I can go up and talk to anybody I want because I've faced what I needed to face in the midst of sobriety. I'm good now. Like if I don't go out to bars often because frankly it's not my scene. But if I needed to, if I wanted to meet somebody, I could, right? And I could feel fine about it. And I could wake up the next morning and not be hungover. So like that's an option for people. But people just don't want to do it. Like people want to just feel good right away. Like that's the whole culture right now. And sobriety is totally anti that. You are in delayed gratification world if you are in sobriety. You are no longer participating in the everyday, instantly gratifying culture of the normal world. If you are sober, you're in this delayed, and it's a long game. It's a long game, but it's a better game because you get the same highs, you get the same feelings, but it doesn't come at the expense. It comes at the expense of hard work up front. You pay up front. You pay up front. And then you get the same result, arguably a better result because it's not associated with any of the negatives, right? But people are on this other side of the world right now, on the other side of the culture, and it's just like instantly gratifying. I want the happiness up front and I'll pay for it later. But that's not how sobriety works. And once you make that flip and you start experiencing that, you're just like, wow, like I am missing out. I can't believe I was missing out on this for so long,
Yeah. I love what you were talking about, the instant gratification versus delayed. And a lot of, delayed gratification is also involved in endurance sports. But I think anything that gives you instant gratification, you probably should run away from because it is very dangerous,
Yeah.
Even just like scrolling on your phone, instant gratification. Like if you don't have to work really hard at something and it gives you a dopamine hit, it is probably addictive and harmful to you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have another question. What is a common misconception people have about you or about people in recovery that have gone through an addiction?
Well, I think that the biggest misconception about addiction is that it's a drinking problem or a drug problem. I don't think that people fully understand like the depth of what addiction actually is. I'm a big believer that it centers in the mind. And I think that there's a reason that, we look to drink. There's a reason we look to like fill the void. And, if you don't believe me, then you can stop drinking for the first 30 days. And, if drinking was your problem, then theoretically you should be able to stop drinking and just be okay. But, if you're anything like me, you stop drinking and you get worse. I remember waking up in rehabs and I would be like 14 days removed from drinking and drugs. And my roommate would start getting better. And I would just be spiraling in my head, like getting worse. And that's when I would like really freak out because I'm like, oh, something must really be wrong with me. Right. But then I started like getting educated on this and I realized that, drinking is just a symptom of my problem. And my problem, I actually haven't done any work, even though I stopped drinking, like I really haven't done any work because that wasn't even my problem. My problem was something deeper than that. So, I need to actually start working on this or, I will pick up a drink, pick up a drug again. So that's what I think the biggest misconception is of that. And the biggest misconception of me is that I think people like look at my page and it's intense, like it's black and white and like hardcore. And they see that and they think that I'm like this like hardcore, like stern dude that like runs 100 miles and like likes to like suffer. And I'm not like that. I think that that page is just like an isolated piece of myself that has just like came from a lot of my experience and I put the message together in a way to be delivered to people and to hit people the way that I feel as though it would have hit me if I was reading it at 20 years old, 30 days sober, right? So I kind of package it in a certain way to like really try to drill through to hit people to make them think about things. But that's a big misconception I think because people especially at school or people that I like just meet, I just didn't expect you to like be this way because I saw your online presence and now I'm seeing you and I'm just like, yeah, it's just like piece of me and I'm more than just that, right?
You're an amazing, amazing writer. I mean, the way that you put these quotes together, I mean, it stops you. I'm amazed at your content. Have you always been a writer or is this something that came later in life?
On certain things like and then I started like the Instagram and I started writing and ever since I like kind of put that desire there, I feel like it's just been like a great outlet for me. So I think it's like I think it's even more so just like a creative like thing inside of me that is just like I just need to like put stuff out there or even like just journal or just like get things out of me.
Yeah, I love what you're talking about because in medicine, we don't have a lot of opportunity to be creative, right? So
Yeah.
this podcast is my creative project,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I love that so much. I have a few more questions before we do the lightning round. I wanted to ask about your running because I also am a runner, and running has been a part of my life as a drinker and in sobriety. I feel like my 100-mile race was like living my like a whole life in one day is what it felt like, you know? To talk about how you got into running. I know you said cross country, but how did you get into ultra running and ultimately doing the longer distance races?
Yeah, so I got into ultras because I loved trail running. Like I really always loved trail running. I don't know what it was about it. I just much rather run on a trail than run on a road. And a lot of college running was on a road because, that's what we were training for and on the track. And I knew ultras were like trail runs. So that was the number one pull to it. And just the massive challenge of it too, I thought was interesting and just pulled me toward it. And then once I started realizing that like, oh, like all these people that do these runs are just as messed up as I am, I like really just got hooked. So yeah, that's what's pulled me toward it. And I talk a lot about like we were talking about earlier, like, I just think that it's so fundamentally similar to the journey of recovery. It's so mental, right? And we tend to have a higher pain tolerance and we tend to be able to like engage in like healthy torture. Like it's just the torture is more healthy for people like us, I guess, in a way, because it's just like therapeutic. If you haven't been through something that's brought you to your knees, you're probably going to be at mile 80 in a 100-mile race and you're not going to have anything to relate it back to. You're not going to have any evidence of, oh, this is hard and this sucks, but I've done something hard and something has sucked before. And as a result, it's made me feel better. If you don't have that experience, you're not going to last. Right. So, that's like a big thing for me. And just every time I run 100, like I just, 100 is like the perfect distance, by the way. Like it's such a good distance. It's just a perfect amount of sleep deprivation. And like you get 50 miles is halfway. It's almost 4 marathons. Like it is just such a good distance to make you think about everything and to give you what you need. And I always think about that first year of sobriety and my active addiction too when I'm going through that distance, because it's just, how can you not think about it? It's so similar. The feelings, the emotions, the weight of impossibility that comes up, right? Like it's so similar. And I
Yeah.
always just think back to that like first year, and it just makes me a little bit more grateful, and it just reminds me of like, yeah, this is like where I came from, and like I got through it, and I go back to it when I need to feel what I need to feel. Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, what you're talking about is making me a little bit teary because I know exactly what you mean, like mile 80. For me, I just did my first Ironman last year, and
Congrats.
that was something. I mean, I've always been a runner. I am not a well-rounded athlete, though. Like, I don't know I have no coordination. Like, I am very uncoordinated, not a good cyclist. But anyway, I never thought that I could do something like that. And I was on the bike, about to finish this, 112-mile bike ride and then run a marathon, but whatever. I was sobbing, like absolutely sobbing. And it just made me like go back to my days of active addiction. Like, I couldn't even get through a morning.
Yeah.
I was crawling on the floor, like throwing up, couldn't make it to my job, couldn't take care of my kids. Like, and here I am about to finish an Ironman. Like, the arc of that, I don't
Yeah.
know, cathartic and powerful and sad at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, that is powerful. That is powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you have next for you in terms of your races? What's on the agenda?
So third year of medicine is like the busiest. So right now I don't have anything. I kind of knew that with the last one I did. It was like my last kind of hurrah for a little bit. So I also like to be in the gym, and like I've always been like a skinny kind of bit. So I like to lift weights too. I can do both, but I need a lot of time to do both. And with medical school, like it really like I need to pick one. And so that's what I've kind of been doing. I'll do a long race and then I'll get back in the gym for a while. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm just training, trying to put back on weight. And but I think that my fourth year, I'll probably do maybe something out west, something on some trail. That's what I'm thinking, because we'll have more time. But yeah, I don't know if it's gonna be able to. I always say this, like I always say, like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be like I said this like the second to last one I did too. I was like, yeah, like that's might be the last one for a while. But so like you never know. But that's I'm gonna stand on that right now.
Yeah.
Fourth year. Yeah.
I have a very big goal to do Leadville. That sounds like a good one
That
to
is
do.
like I gotta run that at least once in my life.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
once and done. I'll be good. I know. I feel like because I did that my 100-mile race. It's been a long time. It's been, I don't know, 12 years since I've done that. I've done 50s and other distances, but something big would have to pull me back to that distance. That distance was very challenging for me.
I know, it's a tough distance. It never gets easier too. Like
No.
it's like just as hard every time. I mean, at least for me, like it's just as hard every time I do it. Yeah, it is
It's
such
a mental battle for me. And then, like, dealing with the hallucinating from not
yeah,
sleeping.
it's
But I will tell you this, though, the last thing before I get into your rapid fire question is I was a different person before my first 100-mile race, and I was a different person after. Like, that experience completely changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the same experience. That's what brings me back to it, is like the growth that, and it's funny because the growth, like it doesn't even happen instantly. You don't like cross the finish line and then you're just like magically switched. It's the reflection after the race when you think
Mhm.
back on it and you really give it time to marinate in your head, and you're like, oh my gosh, like that's like when I really get like the juice of it. And I totally agree with that statement. I think you can't be the same if you finish the 100, like you're not the same person that started.
Yeah. I love that. Well, we have made it to the lightning round of your show. I do the same 5 questions for each guest, and they're fun, just get to know you questions. So the first one is, do you have any hidden talents?
I like to surf. I
Okay.
guess I'm not great at it. I like to write, but I think that that's not hidden anymore.
Yeah. That's well known. Number two, what song puts you in a good mood?
Recently, I've been listening to Drake.
Okay.
Yeah.
A little hype. Hype
Yeah.
mix. Number 3, what is the last concert you've been to?
I think it was a John Bellion concert. I don't know if you know who that is.
Mm.
Yeah, he's really good. I don't know if it's the last one I've been to, but it's the one that I think about like the most. I'm not a big concert person, but every once in a while I'll think about that concert. I'll just be like that was so good. Like I would go to that sober. I don't think I've ever been to a sober concert.
What type of music is that?
It's like pop, I wanna say, but he made, All Time Low, that song All Time Low, I'm not sure if you
Mhm,
know that,
mhm.
but he makes, like, all the beats and all the, like, acapella sounds in the beat and then, like, does the vocals and everything,
That's
so
cool.
he's like a yeah, he just does everything, and when he, like, performs, you can see, like, how invested he is in it, and, that's the one concert that I, like, think about the most. I'm like, "If he was performing around my area, I might buy tickets and go."
Yeah, that one's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4, what would be your last meal?
Ooh, steak.
Solid choice. All right, last question, kinda heavy. What type of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I hope to speak to the younger 20-year-olds that are struggling with addiction, and I hope to show them that, this thing that you think is the worst thing in your life is actually such a blessing in disguise, and that, you're sitting on this brain, this, like, wiring of a brain that can really, like, be used to your benefit if you figure out how to use it and if you point it toward the right things. And I really hope to give people hope that are in that just nasty cycle that I was in. And I hope to just be an example, a good example to those people and show them that you don't need to go through your 20s drinking every weekend to have the best years of your life. Life is so much bigger than that. And I really hope to like get that message out there with my content, with what I'm doing in medicine, with everything, really. That's the one thing that I really want to do.
Yeah. Well, you're already doing it, so I'm amazed by everything that you're doing, super
Thank you.
inspired by you. It's such an honor to meet you in person like
Yeah.
this or virtual. But,
Yeah.
where can people find you if they're interested in following you or your coaching?
Yeah. So I primarily am on Instagram. So at David period Millar period mindset. That's you can find everything else from there, but that's where I'm most active. So
All right,
yeah.
awesome. All right, well, good luck with school, good luck with all your races, and have a good night.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, bye.